I don't know how to explain it. This house I live in, it can best be described as a circuit, as no better words come to mind. But I suppose an explanation would be appropriate. You'll have to forgive me, I have a tendency to ramble on, completely forgetting the perspective of the listener. I don't often have the company of listeners, you see. It all started when I bought this old place back in 1997. I was fresh out of high school and, coming from a wealthy family, I was immediately able to purchase my own house, and a nice one at that. Of course, I had a small job of my own, but most of my money came from my parents. I don't have access to those funds anymore. Well, anyway, the house. It's an old house, built in the 1850s. I'd always had a liking for such places. Dark, wooden houses surrounded by overhanging foliage and a thick, high lawn. The local kids said it's haunted. I don't know about that, but there is certainly something going on here. Oh yes, back to the circuit. I swear, I never explain things to new listeners. I started noticing it immediately. In fact, it's why I bought this place. There was just this feeling when I first entered the house, just this overwhelming joy. The fact that I had the atmosphere I'd been looking for was suddenly icing on the cake. I wanted this house, and had a feeling that it wanted me. But once I had moved in, a month later, I had wasted no time in acquiring it. I found that its love was conditional. None of my furniture had arrived yet, and I was just walking around upstairs and exploring. I don't know why. I'd already been through it many times before. I think I was just basking in the house's presence more than anything. Anyway, I bumped into an open door, and that's when it started. The moment that door swung slightly out of place, the feeling vanished. Not only vanished, but replaced by this inexplicable terror, worse than any I'd ever felt. Not knowing what to do, I took off down those stairs as fast as I could. On my way out, however, I bumped into an old table that had been left in the downstairs hall by the previous owner. The house had been abandoned since the original owner died in 1904. It slid a few inches, and though I thought it impossible, the terror increased still. I was at that point shouting apologies for reasons I didn't understand. I was fully aware, though, that whatever I was screaming at could and would hurt me. Willing to try anything, I moved the table back into place. It didn't work. I was desperate, though. I got down on my hands and knees, adjusting it back into its original place to the finest hair's width. Only when it was at the exact spot and angle it had been at did the fear begin to leave me. I went upstairs and did the same to the door, and instantly, as if nothing had happened, I felt as good as the day I had first entered the house. And that's how I came to refer to it as the circuit. When everything is just as it was all those years it sat empty, the house is a paradise for me. When the circuit is broken, the positive energy is immediately turned negative until the circuit can be re-established. It doesn't seem to care when I bring in my own furniture or dust, but if I move a door, or a piece of furniture left over from the old owners, the terror starts and I have to fix it. I've left sticky notes next to every movable object, explaining where it should be and at what angle. Warnings not to open windows or cabinets. I've drawn lines on the ground, traced around the bottoms of the doors, squares around the bottom of the table and desk legs. The rug they left in the dining room has been traced around in marker. I tried installing stoppers to keep the doors in place, but for reasons I still don't understand, that seems to break the circuit. I just have to be careful. I've spent much of my time since then getting the place completely figured out as described beforehand. I had to quit my job. I'd be sitting at work and suddenly I'd know the circuit had been broken. I had to sit there, terrified for my life, only to return to find that the mailman had left the mailbox open or something. Shortly afterwards, my parents cut me off, and they still refuse to help out until I find a new job. They won't accept that I can't, and I fear that they could be in danger too if I told them. Last night, the house was broken into. I felt immediately that the circuit was broken, and it only increased as the intruder ransacked the place. I called the police and locked myself in the computer room, and though I heard the police arrive, they only made it worse. I assumed they left doors open, or in some cases open at different angles than what they were. I can't check, because when I turned to leave the room to meet them, the door was gone. That was several hours ago. The window is still here, but all I can see is miles of black, and what seems to be a faint glimmer of light in the distance. Surprisingly, the broken circuit feeling is gone. In fact, I haven't felt any kind of presence since I've been trapped in here. The only change I've noticed is that every time I look up, I could swear that the ceiling has got a fraction of an inch lower.